Good morning and welcome to this morning's session of the Jackal Island Authority. This is the committee meeting session. Mr. Wilkinson, the chairman, has been delayed slightly, so I'm going to take over for a few moments. As you know, this is the committee session. Welcome everyone here. At this time, I'll call on Michelle to call the roll.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Joseph B. Wilkinson is delayed. Mr. Bob Kruger.
Here.
Mr. Bill Gross.
Here.
Commissioner Mark Williams.
Here.
Thank you. Ms. Joy Birch Meeks.
Here.
Mr. Tripp Tollison will be absent today. Dr. Buster Evans.
Here.
Mr. Glenn Willard.
Here.
Mr. Dale Atkins. We have a quorum today, sir.
Thank you. It's stated for the record that there is a quorum. We're streaming online at JIA YouTube channel, and public comments can be made in person or online. First item of business today is the Historic Preservation Conservation Committee. This time, I will call on Ben Carswell, Director of Conservation, and Dr. J. Exum Associates Incorporated to give us an update on the 2020 Conservation Plan. Ben?
Good morning. Thank you. It's my pleasure this morning to introduce you all to Dr. J. Exum. Actually, I believe, Mr. Kruger, for you, this is a reintroduction. Dr. Exum was the architect and the lead writer and facilitator for the 2011 Jackal Island Conservation Plan, which is the plan that has been in effect since that time, and the plan that brought me on board as your Director of Conservation back in 2012. So at that time, back when this building was being built, Jay and working closely with Dr. Terry Norton, who chaired the committee that guided the development of the conservation plan, worked closely with you all to really put together what was, I believe, a watershed document in the history of the JIA. Now it's been almost 10 years, and the time has certainly come to provide some updates. But the good thing is that was a very good plan initially. Went through quite a bit of public process to get it to where it ended up. And so we did not need to start over or reboot or rewrite the plan because we had a very good base to start from. So Jay is, both in terms of that background and his larger professional background, eminently qualified to facilitate the public input on the update and to help edit the plan, and update the plan. Jay got his PhD from Auburn back in 1985, and I was 5 years old, I might mention. And since that time has been doing evaluations for, very large conservation properties in Florida, working with municipalities and throughout the Southeast, and working with municipalities and local governments on similar plans, and served as president of the Florida chapter of the Wildlife Society. So happy to have Jay speak with you all this morning. And Jay, if you'd come up, please.
Ben, thank you very much. I'm at least pleased to know that you were alive when I got my PhD, even though you're only 5 years old. Jones, I would like to tell you, or I will tell you, that I have done plans like these for dozens of local governments, and almost always the team, the public, the elected officials are engaged in the process and committed to the process. But your team and Ben's team, since the development of this plan, have focused on the strategic plan from 2011 like no other. I know because Ben would call me every couple of years and ask for where the source of this map was, or where we got this data. And I know now, having done this work for y'all over the last 10 months, how much you focused on the objectives of the plan. So kudos to the JIA for y'all keeping Jones and Ben and his team's feet to the fire for taking the plan and actually using the plan as a guide to implement the objectives and actions that were specified in it. It is really exemplary, and not necessarily what happens with a lot of the detailed plans that we prepare. Sometimes they do go on a shelf and the teams go on about their business. So I've got great confidence that this plan today is going to have the same benefit of focus on the objectives and outcomes that we spelled out in the plan. So Jones, congratulations. So why do this update? Most plans have some time frame for when you're supposed to review it, and the 2011 plan was no different. 5 or 8 or 10 years was supposed to go by, and the plan was supposed to be updated. Keep in mind that at the time when we did this plan, Dr. Norton oversaw the plan, but he knew he was going to be engaged with the Georgia Sea Turtle Center and would not be leading the plan. There were 0 employees in the Department of Conservation. Ben Carswell was hired shortly after we completed this plan, and since then he's hired his own full-time staff and heavily used part-time staff as well. So that has changed one aspect of the plan. You have professional staff in place. And as a consequence, many of the objectives have been completed, or at least they've been moved to a new phase. And the experience and new data collected by the JIA staff also mandate this review of the plan. And in part, that's because there will be, this allows time for introspection and accomplishments and evaluation of the accomplishments. What have we done right? What could we have done better? Let's evaluate the context of 2011 and how we should move forward. And then finally, we have new data on problems that need addressing, like climate change, sea level rise, invasive exotic plants, et cetera. So those have driven the need for the update. This process has kind of been interrupted, as you can imagine. Probably every presentation made before you has had this similar sort of distraction that this global pandemic has caused. We had our first meeting with one of the advisory groups on March the 12th. And after that, how we had proposed to facilitate this plan has changed drastically. We had 2 stakeholder groups that I'll talk about more in a minute, and those led to dozens of edits from the 2011 plan. Wordsmithing, changing the fact that there was no staff at the time, dozens of edits. Keeping in mind that we used the 2011 plan as a guide. This wasn't a rewrite. This was simply an edit, not a total rewrite for the plan, because we felt like what was in place was still a good guide. But we did add several new chapters, and I'll talk to you about those in a few minutes. After we got through with that comprehensive review, it was probably 3rd or 4th draft at the time, the JIA senior staff reviewed it. And we made modifications at that time as well, so that we could have a complete draft at the time before today. So here we are today presenting to you as the board. This afternoon, there's a presentation to the public, at which time there will be the availability to comment. And for a while during the presentation, real live questions. We'll take those comments, finalize the plan, and then come back to you sometime in the next couple of months for adoption. So I don't think we're asking for a vote on adoption today. As I mentioned, we had 2 advisory groups. One was technical in nature, and if you look at the people and the entities on the left side of this graphic, you'll see that you've got marine biologists, wildlife biologists, coastal barrier island ecologists. These folks all weighed on certain aspects of the technical approach in the plan. And on the right-hand side was also an invaluable stakeholder group, the advisory group, as we call them. And you'll see that the entities that they represent are local in nature, or at least regional in nature. Advocacy groups, those that have specific thoughts about conservation or waste reduction, energy conservation on Jackal Island. And both groups were invaluable to the process. I mentioned this, but it's been, since 2011, a lot has happened. There has been a staff focused on the objectives of the plan. So these graphics represent Ben and his team in action, implementing prescribed fire, conducting unique wildlife research, implementing a park ranger program, engaged with partnerships, conducting wildlife rescue, implementing through the EAP process, low impact development with stormwater swales and unique stormwater management in development projects, dune restoration, marsh restoration, and even overseeing complex restoration projects like the revetment project that shows up in the 3 graphics on the right of this slide. We started off with the mission from the original plan, and this is the conservation mission, and we edited a little bit of what's not emboldened in this text, and then we added the phrase at the back end of this that's in bold to guide the Jackal Island Authority, its partners, and its tenants to reduce the broader environmental footprint of human activities that occur within the park. And the reason for that is because we wanted to recognize that the JIA has this leadership role in conservation, and the way you treat the island is so unique and so much exemplary that we wanted to point that out in the plan. Hence the change in the mission statement. As I mentioned, we did add some new chapters and some substantial rewrites of existing chapters, particularly focused on 5 things. We added guidance related to climate change and sea level rise. We added a section on JIA's role to reduce emissions, waste, and water use in a section we called institutional sustainability. We updated the environmental assessment procedure process, review of projects. That's the projects that have potential impacts to natural resources. We modified the map of special protection areas, and we refocused the chapter on environmental education. And I'll take just a minute on each of these to be specific about that. So the 2011 plan had a lot of details on climate change and sea level rise, but like most scientific organizations over the last 15 or 20 years, that might have been a conceptual recognition 15 or 20 years ago, but now we have data that show the specific ramifications, particularly on barrier islands. So we modified the text and added a section on climate change and sea level rise to recognize simply the growth in scientific information since then. And to a certain degree, that's bringing us up to be consistent with state and federal natural resources agencies. So we sort of know how that has affected natural resources on Jackal Island, but much of the changes on adaptation and resiliency to climate change were modeled after what's in the State Wildlife Action Plan. It's also consistent with national standards on climate adaptation, and it's consistent with what is going on with other barrier islands along the eastern seaboard, actually. And finally, it incorporates conclusions that have been made in other documents like the master plan from 2014 for Jackal Island. And the carrying capacity study, I should say, both of these Jackal Island specific studies. I mentioned this earlier, but there's a new chapter now on institutional sustainability, and it focuses on 3 areas: energy, how to improve efficiency and expand the use of renewables; material waste reduction, how to optimize recycling, reuse, and in fact, just limit waste that goes to the landfill; and water conservation by reducing deep water aquifer withdrawal and water use efficiency. These are not new to Jackal Island. And in fact, here we are sitting in this building that's a LEED certified, silver certified building. So this process has been going on for more than 10 years, but we wanted to sort of codify what has been the mission, the sort of psychology of the Jackal Island Authority for some time. Another example of how this has been implemented in the last few years is the solar fields built on the capped landfill that generates a megawatt of energy, about the amount of energy to power 100 homes on Jackal Island. Another one of the major revisions, we refocused our assessment on the environmental assessment procedure. Just to, I know y'all understand this process, but just a little bit of the context. This is implemented on projects that have potential to degrade natural systems. And it functions in coordination with the master plan and the design guidelines. One of the things that we heard from the technical stakeholder group as well as the advisory stakeholder group was, and many of these individuals had participated in the EAP, they wanted more transparency. So they asked for a greater number of people outside of the JIA to be involved with the EAP review. And this process, as it's been modified, assigns 4 people from the outside to be a part of the EAP review. 2 would be experts on the kind of project that's being planned, and 2 would be appointed by Jones for that specific project. The other part of the EAP that has been modified, if you recall, the plan has something called specially protected areas, and these are the island's most valuable natural resource assets. And what we've done with this is to more explicitly define them and create a map that shows where these special protection areas are. To back up a little bit about the EAP, this review has already undertaken 19 projects since we first conceived it in 2011, and it's had substantial effects already. It's resulted in low impact development considerations like pervious paving and native landscaping. It's established a legally protected wildlife corridor through a planned development. It has implemented a sort of island-wide focus on trash compactors versus dumpsters, created the momentum for swales and other stormwater features, and encouraged larger setbacks for new development so that the primary dune and intact vegetation adjacent to the dune are given more substantial protection. In the area that's circled on the graphic on the top left, this is a proposed project where the trees that were left would not have been left if it weren't for the EAP review. Again, one of the substantial things that's changed in this plan, there were special protection areas in the first plan, but this has been refocused in this plan, is to include the coastal marshes within the entire jurisdiction of the park. So that's one reason why so much green shows up on the left side of the graphic here. But it's added to the special protection areas the maritime oak forest, like is represented on the top right graphic here, and a particular focus on those naturally vegetated areas between the beach and leased parcels. And I'm not exactly sure who can see the laser pointer. Anyway, I don't think that shows up on all screens. So the vast majority of the area encompassed by this photograph would not have been protected in the special protection area established in 2011, but it now protects these extremely sensitive habitats between the beach line and leased parcels. One other substantial place where we kind of refocused the chapter on environmental education. It wasn't as focused as it needed to be, and we brought in a greater focus on outdoor recreation. So the way we did that with the new material is that we wanted to focus on partnerships that increase opportunities for lower income, minorities, and individuals of all abilities. We wanted to plan for generational change in recreation activities and focus on what the Gen X, Gen Y, millennials might want in outdoor recreation, if not now, then when they are focused on greater attendance on Jackal Island in the future. But we know this ought to be a dynamic, ever-changing focus on what the constituents of the island hope to achieve by coming to the island. And when we expand recreation opportunities, we want to make sure that those relieve pressure on roads, beaches, and bike paths so that perhaps there's more outdoor recreation in the interior of the island if we can do that without impacting sensitive oak hammocks. And then finally, with the outdoor recreation, we want to take advantage of environmental education with people who are recreating on Jackal Island. We've set the stage for that with the Park Ranger program, and I think that's got substantial opportunities for improving that system going forward. And it's already the case. Georgia Sea Turtle Center has classrooms that are educating. The Park Ranger program has opportunities for educating kids through the gatorology and the ranger walks. And we want to seize on those opportunities and create greater opportunities for environmental education. So that's a summary of what is being changed in this version of the plan. Again, it's a rewrite, not a redo, but it's also pretty substantial in the amount of changes that occurred in this document. And we hope it will be a living, breathing, adaptable document like the last one has been, I think, over time. So back to the process. This afternoon between 4:30 and 6, there's going to be a public session, also streaming live. And we're going to make a presentation similar to this one. And while that presentation is going on, we're going to ask for comments. So we'll have comments from the public during about a 30-minute period. And then after we receive those comments, we'll respond to any questions that we might have after the presentation. After that, between October 16th, actually it's already live, obviously, but between now and November the 5th, we'll take additional comments from the public. We will summarize all the comments from the public, make changes in the plan as necessary from those comments, and then Ben and Jones will be back to you with a final plan that considers comments made from the public. With that, thank you very much for the time, and I'll take any questions if you have them.
Thank you, Dr. Exum, for that report. It appears to me that we're doing a very thorough job there and involving all constituencies. Look forward to the final report. At this time, are there any questions from any of the board members? Comments? Hearing none.
Mr. Chairman, I have a comment. Jay, I'm very supportive. As you know, I've been reviewing this document now for several weeks. I'm very supportive of the inclusion of the special protection areas, especially the beachfront prairie area, because I think that's one of Jackal's unique characteristics, is to have an area where visitors can pass by the ocean and actually see the ocean. I would really like for you and Ben to look at your maps on your figure 3 maps. There are so many items contained in those on those maps until it may be that it would be a good thing to section those out,
Okay.
so that we have maybe 2 or 3 more maps, the same maps, but yet showing the key would show different items, because they're pretty busy, is what I would say. And I would hate for some of the areas like we're talking about to be downplayed.
Great idea. Great idea. Those are an important part of the plan, and you're right, that map doesn't do justice for the nuances of all the things that will be protected. So it's a great idea, Jones. Thank you.
I think that would also help board members to have a better understanding of the specific areas that are being designated. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you all.
This time I'd like to call on Dr. Terry Norton for an update on the Georgia Sea Turtle Center. Terry?
Good morning. Thanks for having me here today. Today I'm going to give you an update for pretty much the last year of the Sea Turtle Center, since I haven't talked since that time. And I'd like to start with our gift shop, which is the initial interface for our guests. And despite all the restrictions of COVID-19, we've been able to keep the center as a safe place for visitors and staff. We've had great attendance and sales. and great customer service. And I'd like to thank Brian O'Neill and Marina Morris and the gift shop staff for all their efforts in this regard. We've been operating at a limited capacity of a maximum of 50 guests, and we still had record-breaking sales in August and September, as you can see from the numbers there. And our donations are 191% over budget, which has been contributed primarily to Turtle Crawl t-shirts sales, which most of the revenue of those go to a GSTC donation. And we have a lot of different environmentally friendly products, including recycled plush toys, recycled toys made out of milk jugs, and a variety of different types of straws. So we continue to try to incorporate those kind of things in our gift shop. I'd like to welcome Dr. Tom Radzio, our new research ecologist who started in March. And we're really happy to have Tom on board. And we have a lot of exciting things going on in our learning center. And just as an example, the Sargasso Sea exhibit was completed earlier this year. And it's a very interactive display with hidden touches for visitors of all ages and abilities. And it's centered around the Sargasso Sea, obviously, but that's critical habitat for young sea turtles. And we built the exhibit around our existing tank for our educational sea turtle ambassador, which we released the current one a couple weeks ago, and we have another one that's going to be going into that for the next 8 months or so. We have a lot of social media highlights, so I can't talk about all of them, but our social media efforts are collaboration with our marketing team and the GSTC education team and other sub-departments within the Sea Turtle Center. And just as an example, Scoot School has been very popular. It's an online learning platform. We had 50 days of continuous educational resources for schools closed while schools were closed and self-isolation began. So in April, it started, and we received national attention. We got pickups from USA Today and MSN, and we reached over 100 million people through news media coverage. And it's a one-stop shop for ways to connect from afar. There's new resources that are published monthly, and most recently we launched Scoot School's virtual field trip options. So we're really excited about that. If you want to learn more about that, there's a link listed there.
Can you share with the board how far-reaching those educational programs have been, as far as how many states, or at least the most distant state maybe that you're aware of, you arrived this morning?
I mean, it's all over the country, so I don't know all the specific states, but I'd say almost 50 states. So pretty much everywhere, and even internationally seen. So over the years, we've been had reached into Costa Rica and St. Kitts and in the Caribbean and a variety of other places. So I'd say almost 50 states. But
I just think it's really important for everyone to realize you're not just talking about school systems and experiences in the state of Georgia,
Right.
that this is very far-reaching. Thank you.
Our ecological research continues to move forward, and despite the pandemic, we had many challenges, as everybody has, but in the end, everything has turned out well and continues to do well. We focus our efforts on turtles on the island. The Loggerhead Nesting Beach program is probably the biggest one: diamondback terrapins, box turtles, and freshwater turtles, and this is a collaboration with many other organizations. And we had 136 nests this year, which is pretty much average. We relocated about 20 nests, which we try to keep that down to as low as possible. So that's a good number. And we inventoried all the nests, and the mean hatch rate was about 70%, which is pretty good. And we still continue our research on the nesting beach. We're continuing our genetic studies. One example of this program, there's a turtle named Big Bertha, who through this genetic work, we know that she has daughters and granddaughters that nest on Jackal as well as surrounding islands. And she's about 90 years old, we estimate, based on tagging information. We've also been able to, we have a study quantifying injuries, such as boat strike injuries. This was the bottom slide is a turtle that came up with healed boat strike injuries. So this is an example of things we're looking at. We're also doing a study looking at maternal transfer of plastic pollutants from the blood of the mother to the egg and to the hatchlings, and have actually documented that in some preliminary work. And then we continue to do a lot of education on the beach, and that focuses a lot on lighting. I've been working with an organization called the Wider Caribbean Sea Turtle Conservation Network, which is a conservation organization for sea turtles, and we've been updating a website that's focused on sea turtle rehabilitation, mostly medicine and surgery. And this particular website has a worldwide reach, so I've been doing this for the last 6 months to a year, just updating the data, the information on that. So real excited about that project. We're also continuing our work with research in the hospital. We do a lot of work with looking at drug studies, what dose and frequency would a sea turtle need. And one drug we've looked at recently is meloxicam, which is a pain and anti-inflammatory drug, which we use very frequently. And the interesting thing about this study was we looked at it in 3 different species of sea turtles and found that each species has a different dose and a different frequency, which hasn't been documented previously, and changes a lot of things because we used to extrapolate from one species to another. And this was recently accepted to the Journal of Zoo and Wildlife Medicine for the December issue. And I'm really excited about this because our rehab staff, many of them are co-authors on this publication. Our Americorps program continues to run strong, and you can imagine that COVID-19 had a big effect on this program and made it very challenging. Jamie Clayton was our former Americorps manager, who's now moved on to HR, which we're really happy she stayed on with JIA, but sorry for our loss, because she really did a great job, and we really thank her for all her efforts. And she did win an award this year called the Chairman's Award. From what I understand, it's a pretty amazing award. So we really are happy for Jamie and congratulate her. Luckily, we were able to find a replacement, Lauren Pacheco, who starts in early next month. So we're really excited to have her on board. And this is the 3rd largest Americorps grant out of 22 organizations in the state of Georgia. Our Diamondback Terrapin program continues to run strong. We encountered over 700 terrapins on the causeway this year, and we moved 550 of those, over 550 of those, marked and measured and moved them off the road safely. And that's an 80% save rate. And you can see from the table that the green is a live turtle, so it's steadily gotten better over the years. And we collected 300 eggs from dead and injured terrapins, and over 1/3 of those hatched, and most of them released. And over the years, since 2007, we've encountered 5,500 turtles in this program. And this is a story about a survivor, Brock, who is a Kemp's Ridley, one of the most endangered sea turtle species, and had a very severe shark bite. You can see the very severe wound on his neck, and required very extensive wound care and challenging medical therapy, and was doing great for several months. Started eating right away, amazingly. And then he took a downturn, got a blood infection or septicemia. And this required a variety of intensive treatments, including a blood transfusion. You can see Stephanie Stowell, our rehab veterinary technician, giving a blood transfusion. And a lot of the information we got to do, we researched this out and published a recent paper in the Journal of Zoo and Wildlife Medicine on transfusion medicine and in sea turtles and cross-matching. And Brock is still with us. He's eating like a champ now, but he prefers shrimp. It's kind of like your kid only eating, not eating its vegetables. So we're trying to get him to eat other things. So we're giving him stuffed shrimp now, and he'll eat that, stuffed with other food items to give him a more balanced diet. He was an adopted turtle, but he's been taken off adoption because hopefully we're going to release him in the near future. We do see a lot of fishhook turtles. We have one in right now. This was the grand champion, had 5 fishhooks at one time, which was challenging, but those were all surgically removed. And you can see, just interesting, all the little snail shells in the GI tract. So he'd been eating snails. And we are planning for the future. We're working on getting our Association of Zoo and Aquarium accreditation, which is a very stringent standards that we're trying to meet. So we hope to get that in the next few years. And this goes along with our the Georgia Sea Turtle Center expansion. And we're at the beginning of the first step, the conceptual design phase, which we're hoping will start soon. And we've hired a firm out of Savannah, LS3P, to assist with this process. So we're really excited about that, moving forward with that. And that's all I have for you today. I'd be happy to take any questions you might have.
Thank you, Terry. It's always interesting to get a look behind the scenes of what all is going on at the Turtle Center and see why it remains one of our premier attractions. At this time, I'd ask for the board members if they have any questions or comments. Hearing none, thank you so much for your report.
Thank you for the time.
At this time, I'd like to call on Jones Hooks to introduce Michael Scott, our Director of Historic Resources.
Chairman Kruger, it's a special privilege for me to introduce to the board this morning Michael Scott. Michael joined us the 12th of this month, so he hasn't been with us long, but he is our new Director of Historic Resources. Michael, if you could stand up so everyone could see you, please. Michael has over 20 years of experience working in the museum field, not only on the local area, our local museums in North Carolina, South Carolina, and other jurisdictions, but also on the regional and national levels. He has also had leadership roles. So we're excited to have Michael with us. He has his master's from Louisiana State University. His undergraduate is from Slippery Rock University in Pennsylvania. And also Michael is an Eagle Scout. So he has great credentials, and we have definitely put him to work, Mr. Chairman, and we look to see great things coming from Michael with our historic resources.
Thank you, Jones. Michael, welcome to the Jackal Island team. We look forward to great things. As you can see, you've got a lot of work and a lot of challenges out there, but we feel sure you're more than equal to the task there. We look forward to great things. Any questions or comments from any of the board members? Yes.
Identify who's dropped off the phone line for the record. I believe it's Miss Joy Birchmeeks.
Now, say that again, Michelle.
See if Joy.
If you could please identify who's dropped off the phone line. I believe it's
Okay.
Miss Joy Birchmeeks. I just need it for the record. I apologize.
Can we identify who all is on the conference call? Would you announce
I'm
yourself?
still present. This is Glenn. Mark's still here.
Joy?
Thank
Joy
you, sir.
must have dropped off. Okay. All right. Let the record reflect that Chairman Wilkinson has joined us, and I'm now turning over the chairmanship of the Jackal Island Authority meeting to Chairman Wilkinson. Mr. Chairman, this concludes our committee report.
We will now open the floor for any public comments. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes each person. Public comments can also be submitted online at the Jackal Island Authority Board of Directors website. Yes, we don't. Mr. Kruger, thank you very much. And I do apologize. As many of you know, we had a little situation at our home that was supposed to be clearing some drain lines, but instead they blew them open. And we're getting new ceilings and new walls, and I've got a bunch of construction people. You all are welcome to come over, but you got to have a hard head. So we'll do that. All right. If we're ready, we'll go to the Finance Committee. Mr. Gross.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In your packet is the full September financial statements. I'll give you the highlights. Revenues for September were $2,115,325, which is $417,000 better than budgeted for the month. Year-to-date revenues reflect a favorable $1.2 million variance from the budget, and an unfavorable $1.4 million variance from the prior year to date. The locations with the largest variances from budget in September were parking revenues, which were $174,000 better than budget. Traffic and revenues were both higher than September of 2019. The convention center had a budget shortfall of $59,000. The center held one event this month, which brought in about $11,000. They also had revenues of $16,000 from pavilion rentals in the parks. Summer Waves had a very good month, with revenues coming in at $78,000 better than budget. The water park was open primarily on weekends this month, but we were able to keep it open a few weekends longer than we did last year. Campground revenues were $63,000 higher than budget. Campground revenues and bookings continue to remain strong. The Georgia Sea Turtle Center revenues were $72,000 higher than anticipated during the pandemic. Expenses for September were $1,711,839, which is $365,000 or 18% less than budget for the month. Year-to-date expenses were $1 million less than budget and were $1.2 million less than prior year-to-date expenses. The staff continues to monitor expenses, so most of the expense variances are assumed to be timing variances and will likely be spent by the end of the fiscal year. The largest expense variances for the month were human resources, $107,000 less. This is due to vacant positions being held open for as long as possible, saving on labor and benefit costs. This category should be a permanent variance and not a timing variance. Contracts, under budget by $100,000. Supplies and materials, under budget by $48,000. Advertising expenses, under budget $43,000. Repairs, facilities, and grounds, under budget $46,000. Net operating cash income for September is $403,487, which is $782,000 better than a budgeted net operating loss of $378,713. Year-to-date net operating cash income is $2.2 million better than budget and $188,000 worse than prior year-to-date income. September traffic stats. Total traffic count for September was 100,717 vehicles, which was almost 16,000 more vehicles than September of 2019. This is the second month since the COVID-19 pandemic started that our traffic counts have exceeded the prior year traffic counts. Year-to-date traffic count is 840,198 vehicles, which is 153,600 less vehicles than calendar year 2019. Hotel reports. In September of 2020, revenues reported by the hotels were $3.6 million, which is $818,000 more than September of 2019. The occupancy rate was 58.6%, which is up from 45.9%. Revenue per available room was $105.52, which is up from $78.23 in September 2019. Average daily rate was $180.11, which is up from $170.33. The calendar year to date, 2020, revenues reported by the hotels were $29.4 million, which is $8 million less than year to date this time 2019. Occupancy rate was 58.2%, which is down from 67.9% for the year 2019. Revenue per available room was $101.40, which is down from $126.70 year-to-date 2019. ADR, average daily rate, was $174.17, which is down from $186.73 year-to-date 2019. That is the financial highlights for the month. Any, I guess, questions on that?
Mr. Gross, I think it's important for board members to note and realize when we're looking at those net operating numbers and the cash, when we're looking at the revenues and we're looking at the expenses, we're holding the expenses and the revenues have been better than budget. But remember, when we consider the revised budget that you approved in July or for July, that's a much less budget than we would usually be anticipating to operate on. So it's just important to remember that we might be beating budget, but we're not necessarily where we need to be as far as when you look at comparisons of the year before. And I know you know that, we've talked about it, but I just think that it's something that we should bring forward because I think it's important for the general public even to understand the numbers. For instance, Marjorie and I were talking just yesterday, and none of our departments, none of them for last year except the campground, made their incentive goal. And of course, the campground is a unique amenity on the island because of what it was offering as far as space, and you've all read about how many people have bought RVs during the pandemic and that sort of thing. So we're definitely maneuvering in some unusual times, and I just think it's important for us to realize that, because on the flip side, even with the concessions that we've been able to receive from the convention center company, we're still in actual losses over $800,000 since the pandemic began. And I mean, those are real numbers. Those are not projections. Those are real numbers.
Well, it's encouraging to see that the end of the summer was favorable, but
Exactly.
also realizing that we're heading into the winter months, which are typically slow, and those numbers will be diminished somewhat. So,
Right. I'm just trying to make sure we're in the balance there.
very good.
Could you please recognize Joyce back on the phone?
And I understand that Miss Joy Birchmeeks is back on the line with us.
Okay,
That's correct, John.
very good. Next, we'll have the Marjorie, if you would, please present the emergency purchase of an incubator for the wastewater treatment plant.
Yes, sir. Good morning. The Water Wastewater Department has a specialized incubator that they use to house the wastewater bio-oxygen demand, or BOD samples. Those samples have to be housed at 20 degrees Celsius for 5 days before they can be tested. Our EPD wastewater permit requires us to analyze those samples 3 days a week. So that's a lot of samples running through there. This equipment failed on September 30th and wouldn't keep the temperature regulated anymore. So without the incubator working properly, we had to pay an outside company to house those samples and run those tests for us. So you can imagine that increases cost a good bit. So we made an emergency purchase of a replacement Fisher brand IsoTemp 400 refrigerated incubator in the amount of $5,755.95 on September 30th, and the unit was delivered last week. So the staff hereby requests ratification of the emergency expenditure of $5,755.95 for the incubator from water wastewater reserve funds.
Is there a motion to recommend approval of the emergency purchase of an incubator for wastewater department as recommended by staff?
Move to approve.
Is there a second? Did we get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Chairman, that concludes the Finance Committee.
Thank you. We'll open the floor for any public comments. Public comments can also be submitted on the Board of Directors website. We're going to move to the Human Resources Committee. Dr. Evans.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and fellow board members. I certainly apologize for not being able to be there in person today, but we do have a little business coming forward from the Human Resources Committee today. Our director, Jenna Johnson, will come forward and present a policy update on recruiting and retention, as well as recognizing one of our outstanding personnel members there with Jackal Island Authority. So, Jenna, if you will come forward, please. Thank you.
Good morning.
Morning.
Yes, in your board packet, you received a policy update for the recruiting and selection policy for your consideration. This update, what we changed with this just recognizes that close personal relationships occur between those who are not necessarily family members, and provides additional limitations of family members and those with close personal relationships from being hired into or assigned to work in the same work unit, regardless of whether there's a direct supervision role occurring. While we understand that friends and family can certainly be an excellent source of recruiting for us, we also recognize that employees who are related or in close personal relationships may come with some other challenges. So some duplicate time off needs also can create, just in the work alone, an appearance of a conflict of interest, or just some other issues that may disrupt that work unit. So the policy is pretty similar to policies that other state entities that allow employment of family members. It's pretty similar to that, but also provides our hiring managers and supervisors guidance when they're making those decisions on who to put in some of the positions that they're hiring for. So if there are no questions, it's a staff recommendation that the board approve the updated recruitment and selection policy.
Mr. Chairman, this is a staff recommendation, and based on that recommendation, I would make a motion the board approve this policy.
Second that motion.
Dr. Evans, you received a second.
I thought we did this during the board meeting agenda.
Great.
We do this in the next section, I think.
So we would need a board vote to approve, is that correct?
But we need the board, I mean, the committee vote. Okay.
Dr. Evans, would you like to call a vote?
Yes, please call a vote based on this motion in second, please.
Thank you. Dr. Buster Evans, Chair.
Yes.
Mr. Joe Wilkinson.
Yes.
Mr. Bob Kruger.
Aye.
Ms. Joy Birch Meeks.
Aye.
Mr. Dale Atkins. This motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. And now we'll go forward to a recognition that Ms. Johnson will present at this time.
Yes, so each year, the Exchange Club of Brunswick recognizes firefighters during the Fire Prevention Month, and they express their appreciation to all firefighters and present an award to the top performer for each department within Glenn County. This year, Waylon Carter earned the title of Firefighter of the Year for the Jackal Island Fire Department, and I believe Waylon's here. Yes, Waylon, you want to stand up? Firefighter paramedic Carter came to the Jackal Island Fire Department in 2015 in a part-time position, and just over a year ago, he accepted a full-time role with us. And then prior to that, he served about 25 years in the fire service and the EMS. This past year, Waylon has taken on many collateral projects to further the capabilities of our Jackal Island Fire Department. And he serves our residents and visitors with exceptional customer service. He's always positive. He certainly addresses the matter of urgencies and is compassionate and competent. So we certainly appreciate Waylon And he's a great example for all of our employees and is greatly appreciated. So congratulations, Waylon. And that's all I have for you today. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, again, we want to congratulate Waylon Carter, as well as all of our firefighters and those who work with our authority. That does conclude our business from the Human Resources Committee today.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, as a point of privilege, since Dr. Norton mentioned in his presentation an award that Ms. Jamie Clayton received, the Americorps Chairman's Award. She is with us today, even though she's here in her new capacity within our HR department. And I would just request, Mr. Chairman, if we could have Jamie stand and be recognized for that
Please.
award as well.
Okay. Thank you. We'll open the floor for any public comments. Public comments can also be submitted on the Board of Directors website. Okay, then I'm going to move forward to the Marketing Committee. Joy Birch Meeks will present the Marketing Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning. At this time, we will have Alexa Thorndorf from our marketing department come up and present a report. We've got some exciting events coming forward in the next couple of months. Alexa?
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Joy. Appreciate it. I am here to talk about something a little bit more exciting, something we always get excited about this time of year, and that is Holly Jolly Jackal. It is obviously October, so we're not quite to the holiday season just yet, but this is something, in fact, that we have been talking about internally since July. It takes a lot of time to kind of think and prep for the holiday season every year, and so we're excited that it's coming about. Wrong button, sorry about that. So real quick, just wanting to talk about the changes to Holly Jolly Jackal last year. If you all remember, we moved away from having a larger event, the tree lighting festival, and made the decision to turn the holiday season into a several week long experience for people. And really this intention was to spread out the activities that we had around the island, tapping into the carrying capacity study that we had looked at as one of the opportunities to really spread people around, have things happening every weekend so that we could manage visitation better, offer something for people throughout the season instead of bringing them all here on one night. And as such, we had a very, very successful season. We saw around 4,000 more visitors in the month of December over the previous year. In fact, this was actually the highest number of visitors that we had seen really in the past 5 years for that month. We also saw an increase in daily and annual visitors throughout the time period over the previous year. And we saw a 7.2% increase in lodging with our hotels and our rental properties over 2018. So it was a testament really to the fact that this change benefited the island. It spread people out, and it still allowed us to have a successful season. So in July, when we started looking at how we could continue to have this season happen, continue to have activities for people, but understanding that we're certainly faced with some new challenges, we wanted to reimagine the season with enhanced health and safety protocols to be able to provide visitors the opportunity to safely enjoy the holidays. So as such, we have made some changes, but I think these are exciting changes and things that we may very well continue on through years to come. So the season will kick off officially Friday, November 27th, and it will run through Sunday, January 3rd. All season long, we'll have a lot of our activities that we had last year, which include Peppermint Land, a reimagination of Jackal Island mini golf, and you'll be able to play even into the evening under the lights. It'll be a fun experience for families. We'll continue to have our holiday Holly Jolly light tours, as well as the self-guided tours for those who want to drive around the island in the safety of their own vehicles. We'll also have our mailbox on Main and Beach Village, and we'll have multiple Santa sightings around the island. On November 27th, the lights will come on the island, around the island, as well as the Great Tree in the historic district. So the season will truly kick off on that Friday. In December, we'll have a lot of our kind of JIA anchored events that will happen throughout that month. So we'll have our holiday Holly Jolly Jackal Parade. This year, we have, as I mentioned, reimagined some of the activities, including the parade. So the parade will now become an island-wide parade. It will be, street legal vehicles that can participate in the parade. And it will be centered around prime viewing locations. So looking at parking areas and spaces that we can have families come and watch the parade at a safe distance, and really kind of minimize the crowds, because if you recall last year, the parade did end on the main lawn and we did the lighting of the tree. But again, in order to ensure that we're meeting health and safety protocols, we want to look at things like social distancing, minimizing crowds. So we've made some changes to allow families to still come and enjoy the parade or participate in the parade, and do so safely. We also will have fireworks at Great Dunes Beach Park on December 6th and December 20th. So this year, we're fortunate enough to be able to have 2 fireworks shows, so 2 opportunities for families to come and see the fireworks and enjoy the island at night. We'll have our holiday big truck roundup in the historic district on December 12th. And we will also have 2 new drive-in movie experiences. So in place of our movie on the green that we've done in the past, we will move to the convention center parking lot and have a large drive-in movie screen. We'll be showing Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Santa will make a visit and drive around and see families. And we'll have a lot of fun activities happening in Beach Village leading up to that time. So 2 opportunities to watch that, to experience the drive-in movie, as well as many more events. Many of our island businesses are participating in the season as they did last year. So they will have their own kind of business-centric experiences to offer during the holidays. So there really is something happening every weekend that families can enjoy and do so safely. We have a new landing page up now for the holiday season. It's jackalisland.com/holiday. You'll actually see that on the left of the screen, which has all the details about our holiday season. These have all officially rolled out as of late last week. So you can now see what's happening, start making plans for all the activities, many of which are free for families. A lot of these events and experiences are still free for families, as they have been. And then, of course, we have many of our special programs that we'll be offering as well. We will be rolling out a Holly Jolly event guide. This was also something that we introduced last year, which was very successful. A lot of people enjoyed receiving it. So it'll be available at businesses and hotels around the island so that you can kind of keep up to date on all of the fun things happening every weekend and during the week throughout the season. Jumping back just a little bit from the holidays, we have spent the last several weeks working on, again, kind of just pushing that leisure travel business. And one of our campaigns from a messaging standpoint has really been remote on the road. And that expectation is to remind families who are now kind of facing this new normal of, virtual learning experiences, and letting them understand that we have a lot of opportunities here for supplemental education, things that they can come and do and see here safely while they're continuing to go through online schooling, and families are working remotely. So we've been working on messaging to kind of get out that understanding that Jackal is a great place to come and continue your online education, your distance learning, and do so here with some supplemental activities like our Georgia Sea Turtle Center, all of our history and our culture. So we have pretty much everything that you could need to kind of supplement that education that your families are learning as they're going through this new normal with school. We've continued this messaging through a lot of our digital social channels, email marketing, as well as PR. We've had some recent coverage in Atlanta Magazine, as well as local coverage. We've had some great groups and families that have come here that we've been able to get some important testimonials to really speak to that and what they've been able to do while they were here. So that's exciting, and that's something that we're continuing to push through these next several months, as many families are still faced with that challenge of distance learning. And lastly, I just wanted to touch a little bit on some of our news coverage that we've received. We're continuing to really push Jackal and make sure that it's front and center when people are planning their travel right now, as they're looking for safe places to visit. They're looking for places that are maybe close to home if they need to make last minute changes or decisions. And if they're in the process of kind of making those last minute travel plans, which we're seeing a lot of right now. We know that many people are still continuing to book their travel within a week out of traveling. So we're not getting a lot of that long-term planning. And so if we can kind of continue that message of why Jackal's a great place to come as you're planning that visit. And again, as we move into the holiday season, our hope is that getting a lot of that out now will help people to start to think about that and maybe expand the time frame for which they're planning that travel. So we've had some great coverage on a national level with Travel Channel, 50 States of Bucket List Adventures. And we've had a lot of great regional coverage, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, Close to Home, Unusual Getaways Near Atlanta. So really just a mix of both national and regional coverage, talking about why Jackal's a great place to come when you're looking at planning a last minute trip, or you're looking at planning something close to home. And we are also in the process of some great, what we call FAM tours, or familiarization tours with a lot of media and journalists, so that we can kind of keep Jackal top of mind as they're looking at those stories. And we have some that are slated to come out in the next several weeks with some other publications like Southern Living, Outside Magazine, Traveling Mom, and Narcity. So lots of great media coverage and continuing to push Jackal at the forefront of those planning decisions. And with that, if there are no questions, that concludes the marketing report.
Thank you.
Planning on reopening or offering ice skating again during the Christmas season?
That is actually a great question. This year, we will not be bringing back the skating rink or the skating village. It will be retired for the time being, and we'll consider bringing it back for future years. But again, that was one of the adjustments that we needed to make to the Holly Jolly Jackal season in terms of costs and staffing concerns. And then, of course, just making sure that we had taken into account health and safety of visitors that would be utilizing that activity.
Thank you.
Joy, do you have anything else?
Mr. Chairman, if there are no more questions, that concludes our report, but I do want to continue to commend our marketing committee. They are staying focused, and they continue to evolve in our culture as it is today to keep Jackal front and center and remind folks that there's no better place to be than Jackal Island. And with that concludes our report.
Great. Thank you so very, very much. We'll now open the floor for any public comments. Public comments can also be submitted online. Okay, I'm going to move on to the legislative committee. Tripp could not be here today. It's a hat I wore for a number of years. So I'm going to first ask Jones to give us an update on two requests.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As board members know, we have you have approved two projects for submittal to the state for budget consideration this year. Those are the same two projects we moved forward last year. That is the Jackal Island Campground expansion, which is a $2.9 million project, and a new public safety complex, which is a $2.1 million project. The total state funding request is $5.142599. The difference from last year to this year is that we have gone through the process of having the necessary reclassification of land from undeveloped to developed category. And so that is one of the items that is different in the package from last year. In anticipation or in request of funding from the state, We have submitted these projects to members of the House Appropriations Committee and have had written correspondence, two-way correspondence from Representative Terry England, who is the chairman of the House Appropriations Committee. And also then I have met with Senator Blake Tillery, who is chairman of the Senate Appropriations Committee, to talk about projects. And in addition, I have had discussion with the governor's chief operations officer regarding the projects again this year. We also just recently, I had conversation with Colonel Chris Wright, who is the newly appointed commissioner of the Georgia Public Safety Department, as well as he is now colonel for the State Patrol, which means he is over this post here on Jackal Island. In your blue folders today, there's information about Chris, because Chris is actually from McIntosh County, from this area, and he knows Jackal very well. He's been assigned to different positions within the area, including Glenn County and Southeast Georgia, and he is very supportive of this new facility on Jackal. Of course, the State Patrol support is for us to lead in the request, because we are the ones that supply the State Patrol post barracks on Jackal Island presently. And so, there's support being discussed, but now in my latest conversation with Tripp and then with you, Mr. Chairman, we understand we still have additional work, and I know that Tripp is going to be scheduling conversations to talk with members of the board to talk about next steps. So, Mr. Chairman, at this time, that's the update that I would have, unless there are specific questions.
Don't hear of any. We will close out the legislative committee. We'll open the floor for any public comments, or they can be submitted online. Anyone need a break, or do you want to move forward? We'll move forward. Go to the committee of the whole. And the next is the end of season summer waves report. Noel Jensen.
Thank you, Chairman. I would guess that many of y'all would think that this may be a bleak assessment of summer waves, seeing as that it was closed for a better part of the summer. But actually, we have pretty good news about how summer waves operated. The season attendance was expectantly down due to COVID, but an adjusted attendance count wound up being pretty impressive. So in 2019, we had 134,412 guests from May 4th through September 30th. But this year in 2020, we had 73,256 guests, but we were only open from June 12th to September 30th. So when you adjust those numbers to the days open, that would make it in 2019, we had 80,425 guests. In the same time period in 2020, we had 73,256 guests. So really, we were only about 7,000 guests off of what we would have had last year if we were open the same amount of days. So that's really not doing too bad for a water park in the pandemic. During the 2020 season, the water park also had a capacity cap at 50 to 60%, depending on whether it was day or weekend. So that limitation was self-imposed. And we were trying to limit the amount of people in the park. That way we could keep enforcing social distance and to make sure everybody had enough room to maneuver around the park and not step on top of each other or violate protocol for COVID-19. The summer waves revenue also reflected the same swing. When you look at the 2019 versus 2020 unrestricted revenues, you were down about $1 million from last year. But the good way to look at it, I would say, is when you adjust those numbers for the days that were actually open. If you took June 12th through September 30th of both 2019 and 2020, we were less than $200,000 apart. So the capacity cap has something to do with that. but also the adjusted net income was only down 8% during that time period. So there were some things that played into that. And I'm going to let Steve Sharp go into some lessons learned and maybe discuss a little bit further about how we were able to only be down 8% in adjusted net income and be down $1 million worth of revenue from being open a lot less time. Steve?
Thank you, Noel. Good morning. Because of all the uncertainties going into the season last year, we figured it'd probably be a wise move to kind of simplify our operation. So some of the things you see up there is just a few of the adjustments that we made. The first one, we adjusted the water park hours, which allowed us to get more cleaning time in, more sanitation done to meet the CDC guidelines. So we were open to 11 as opposed to 10. This also allowed us to save some labor hours, which resulted in an overall labor percentage of about 17%, which is in line certainly with last year. So we were operating at about 12 hours less a week. We paid one price, was a hit. Our price structure in the past, we had general admission, junior admission, senior admission. We had quite a few price ranges. And that also allowed us to sell online. And we found out that we got no complaints about the one price. And actually one price was really two prices. If you bought online, you got a $2 discount at $18. If you bought at the window, it was $20. So that worked out real well. And then the cabanas, we found out, were in huge demand, as you might expect. People wanted their private space. $76,843 in revenue from just 12 cabanas, which is a 62% increase from 2019. This is a trend that we fully expect to continue into next year. And we're actually looking at adding a few more cabanas this off season. Online ticketing sales, I mentioned before that we had so many different price structures that it did not allow us to sell online because people would have to measure their kids and buy the right tickets. And while some would, most wouldn't. So the one price allowed us to do that. And we sold more than 60% of our admission tickets were sold online. And 98% of our cabanas were booked online, which made managing those cabanas a lot simpler. We'd come in, by start of the next day, all the cabanas were booked, which gave staff time to make the wristbands and get it all organized. And it really was seamless. So online ticket sales is definitely something we will continue to do. Great group rates for Saturday, we found were unnecessary. We were meeting capacity every Saturday. We had cut our capacity, like Noel said, we cut our capacity down to 50%, but on Saturdays, we realized that was a little too much, so we cut it even a little bit more, which ended up with waits to get in. Most people hung around, they waited, and we would let them in proportionately as they left. So we didn't see any sense in filling up with discounted tickets. So we did no group sales for Saturday. Excuse me. So moving forward, we're going to continue that and try to push that business into another day. Either that or they'll just pay full price as a group. So that worked out well also. And we really had a great staff this year. We met with them. We knew the challenges, or we didn't know all the challenges, but we knew it was going to be a challenging year. So we met with them every morning before their shift, tried to remind them that, hey, look, you guys are in a fishbowl. They're watching everything we do. Everything they see is going to be documented, and try to keep their focus on what their real job was. Their real job was water safety, keeping our guests safe, and to leave all the background noise to us, to management. Let us take care of the COVID restrictions and let us deal with all that. You just take care of our guests. And then we'd meet again in the afternoon to discuss any issues that may have come up during the day, or any issues that they might have if they were feeling uncomfortable. So we invested a lot of time in that, and it worked out really well. So overall, we feel like we had a really good year with all things considered. It gives us a step moving into next fiscal year, and a few things I'd like to mention. Concession sales, and this is over last fiscal year, but concession sales was up $15,000. Retail did a great job with product mix and staff. As I mentioned before, Cabana sales up 29,000 over the last fiscal year. Season pass sales up 34,000 over last year, starting this fiscal year. And that was mainly due to a promotion that we decided that people who purchased season passes this year, they would also receive them for free next year. We felt like that would generate some income because, quite frankly, we were kind of worried about how much income we would have. But this turned out to really work out well for us. So looking at the bottom line, net income of $710,000, which is actually 61%, and that's 1% better than last year at this time for the fiscal year. So any questions? I'll be happy to take them.
Thank you very much.
Chairman, I would like to point out that Steve Sharp, the general manager, and his staff did an exemplary job, and they should be congratulated for dealing with a water park under a pandemic. And I do want to highlight that in the executive order from the governor, there were 33 different parameters and items that they had to pay attention to that were specific to operating a water park. So over and above all the pages and pages of items of COVID restrictions in the executive order, they had 33 extra ones put on top of them. And it was really a Herculean job, and I sincerely appreciate it.
Here. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I agree totally with Noel. I want to commend Steve Sharp too. He's an outstanding manager, and board members need to realize that.
Very grateful to them. The next would be the Golf Master Plan Insights for Consideration. Next steps for the Jackal Island Authority. Jones Hooks.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, you and board members received the Golf Master Plan summary from Troy Vincent Group, and it was a draft. We had anticipated that this week we would make some changes just in formatting and some very small items, and then have the final for you today. Unfortunately, Troy's immediate family, there was a death, and so he has not been available this week, and we certainly, our sympathies go out to him. But I have spoken with him, and in the next couple of weeks, we will finalize that report and get it to you. I do want to go ahead and talk about a couple of things, however, with you. And you have a list in front of you and on the screen of priorities. These priorities were included in the Golf Master Plan prepared by the Vincent Group. And this is a summary page that I put together. And I think the important thing here is that there are just some things that we're not looking to have change much as far as the golf courses. For instance, we want to improve our maintenance, obviously. We want to improve our operations. Well, those are ongoing desires, but we think that this is an opportunity for us to do that, to take that to the next level. Also, you know that one of the priorities included in this study was how courses would physically be reconfigured if necessary to enhance sustainability. And another item that is important is looking at as the golf courses are reconfigured, if in fact that's where the board, the adoption that you make, then what other items would you look to have as your priorities? Well, one that we have today that I think everyone has affirmed over and over is that we have no housing on the golf courses on Jackal Island. And that is something that has been said over and over and was included as a priority in this in this particular study. So that means you would be looking at very limited and development, and that would be maintaining low density. And that's the reason that the Vinson Group went in the direction that they did as far as some assisted living opportunities, because that, of course, is low density, not much impact as far as additional traffic, additional cars, and so it seemed to be a natural. So also the idea of conservation, and we've already had a big discussion this morning and introduction of the update to the conservation plan, but certainly there are additional conservation opportunities that would emanate from changes that may be made at the golf course. And that would look at diversifying our outdoor recreation and educational opportunities that may be connected as well. And just overall looking at cost estimates of the golf course. So those are items that I just selectively chose from the priorities that are in the master plan, just to highlight to you today. As far as these are some things that I don't think that there's any debate about, that we seem to all be in sync with, and that as you've reviewed it, these have been put forward time and time again. And then when I look at these, then I know that you're saying, so what's next? Where do we go next with the golf course master plan? And is there a slide for the? No, that's the priorities. Is there not one for the? Okay. Can you do that? So looking at next steps, usually I would be sitting here talking to you saying, we've got this budget and we've got this schedule, and we've got to really be concerned about making this schedule and making this budget. Well, in this case, I think we look at it differently, because, as you know, we have no budget. We have no money for beginning an implementation plan. And consequently, we really don't have a schedule. And I think that can be looked at in a very positive way, because I think it gives the board, Mr. Chairman, additional opportunities to thoroughly review all of the options and the information that's been presented to you. Because remember, there is a lot of information. And I think that we need to go back and we need to look at all of that information again, and at least refresh ourselves. The National Golf Foundation, their review, the public comments, the RFIs that we received from 22 different golf companies and golf course companies. Certainly there's some items in there that we would all kind of laugh about, like, I think one of them said something like plowing over and paving over, redirecting Beachview Drive to go through Great Dunes Golf Course. Well, I don't think anybody has ever said, hey, that's a great idea. And so that one's probably one that gets tossed, but there are others that we probably just need to refresh ourselves with, because this process has been now going on for some time. I also think there are some details that our golf course managers can help us with, such as understanding some of the infrastructure and turf issues that we're dealing with, understanding some of the management issues, also then talking about the environmental issues and opportunities, looking at the reuse and renovation possibilities as far as the clubhouse and course restrooms, and also looking at new possibilities such as croquet greens and golf program creative reuse and enhancement possibilities. Mr. Gross and I recently had a conversation that would fall into that category. And obviously looking at the expected return on investment and increased number of rounds expected. So those are just some of the things that I began to say, hey, what would we really want the board to look at over time, since we don't have a tight timeframe that we have to deal with here. I think also importantly, we need to look at a financial analysis of the Vincent Design Group's proposal before the board would actually adopt a final golf course master plan. So what I would recommend, Mr. Chairman, is that we continue down the path as staff to bring forward some of these items for you, such as the financial analysis. But then that we look at scheduling some actual board work sessions, maybe 3 or 4 after regular board meetings, where we would actually have some of these specific topics to be discussed with you. Because I know every time that I hear from like our maintenance folks and hear about greens maintenance and things like that, I learned something. And I think that that obviously it would be good for you to have that review too, or the benefit of that. So Mr. Chairman, that's where I would say that I personally feel like that we are today, and that I would recommend to you that this be the approach that we take the next couple of months and schedule time for the board to really do a deeper dive, because I think that the golf course master plan and the possibilities that would be explored there and that have been presented in the master plan from the Vincent Group are basically second only to the revitalization plan that the authority has been dealing with over the past 12 years. So that would be my recommendation, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
I'd be happy to answer any questions and any response as far as that process.
I don't see any at this time. Noel, I need for you to come back up, please. Discuss the SPLOST 2016 update and construction of new parking areas. Noel?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chairman. We have been in the process of managing a $2.3 million SPLOST fund that was voted on in 2016 and has since wrapped up September 30th in collections for Glenn County. And we're happy to say we're in the last $610,000 of that $2.3 million. And we have, in essence, paved every residential street on Jackal Island. And that's a pretty big get as far as I'm concerned. There's not a lot of municipalities that can say within a couple of years they paved every residential street in that little municipality. And we've also been able to take some of that money and move it over to some major thoroughfares, like the area as you drive onto the island and take a left from the base of the bridge through the three-way stop at Stable and Riverview, and then all the way through to the short piece of old plantation past the fire station was also paved. And that was heavily traveled, not only by people every day, but also by the construction for the revetment. And that was really good to get that part of it repaved also. But we've also taken some of this money and allocated it to some parking areas. And some of this has already been done by Driftwood Beach. Some of the parking areas that were just previously dirt and people continually got their vehicles stuck in, we were able to pave and organize. And the organization has helped the safety efforts towards Driftwood Beach, because now everybody parks in an organized manner and then they back out or leave in an organized manner. So that really helps. We had one last group of projects that consisted of 4 separate projects. A parking area at North Riverview at the three-way stop, which I just mentioned, at the corner of Riverview and Stable Road. There's an area there where people pull off all the time and just park randomly on oak tree roots and such. And just, it's a nice place to jump off and get on a bike or walk, or actually the old boathouse historic sites there, and people like to fish there. Another one was reorganizing some more parking at Driftwood Beach, but this time focusing on 9 ADA stalls, which includes 1 van stall. So anybody that has a disability that's still able to have an all-terrain wheelchair or is still mobile enough to be able to use something to go see Driftwood Beach would be able to have an organized place to park and a safe place to park on the proper side of the street. the St. Andrews picnic area, which also would create 64 asphalt parking stalls and a little bit of site work and the reduction of only 14 pine trees to make this happen. And then the last one is a small strip by the airport that a lot of people pull over because it's a good place to just get your bearings, because by the time you've driven around the island, it seems like a lot of people, there's a little shell area right there and it's unimproved. A lot of people pull over right there just to figure out, where am I? And some people actually park there and get off on their bikes and ride around. So we had a bid opening yesterday at 2 o'clock, and we received one responsive bid from Seaboard Construction, who has done 3 of the 4 SPOS projects we had put out in the past. And their bid was $499,880.74, and it was a RFQ, which was just a quotation. And since they were the lowest responsive bidder and the only responsive bidder, our intention is to award that to them, and that would still leave us about $110,000, which we thought we'd probably spend in this project. What I would like to highlight about this project is one thing that kind of weaves a thread all the way back to the beginning in the conservation discussion is this area by North Riverview and the 3-way stop and stable was designed with overwhelming amount of pervious concrete and gravel parking due to the density of the trees there. So in design of even things like parking, we're paying attention to the capacity study, the master plan, and some of the tips that we had gotten out of the conservation plan. Even though y'all haven't voted on it yet, that was the easy thing to enact and something that we felt like we would be happy to cover. And I don't know if y'all read any local newspapers, the Brunswick News or anything, but SPOS has been a hot topic lately. And I'm happy to say that the Jekyll Island SPOS spending has been off the radar, quote unquote, as far as being a bad player in that arena. We've been pretty good at managing our projects. So I just wanted to give you a quick update, let you know we were towards the end, and thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, when Noel says off the radar, he means we've been on schedule and on budget. So just the opposite of what I was talking about a minute ago.
Yeah.
It's where we want to be with projects, and Noel has done a very good job of managing these projects. And just to reiterate, these nodes, these small improvements will tie directly in with the capacity study, because you'll remember that was one of the recommendations in the capacity study. And the same thing that Alexa was talking about a few minutes ago, spreading people out through time and in different venues for the holidays. Well, this is also spreading people out around the island. So it's the same kind of philosophy.
Great. Board, any questions? Noel, if you can come back up, and Jones talking about the capital request for bike path rehabilitation.
Mr. Chairman, I am very excited about this. There's a map that you've seen and that is being projected right now as a result of cart path paving work with FEMA dollars from the last 2 hurricanes. We have been able to do a lot of cart path paving on the golf courses. And obviously some people would say, well, why are you doing that if you're going to do a golf course master plan? We'll go back to the earlier discussion. There's no schedule and no money, so it makes sense. Those paths were so torn up that we would go ahead with those projects. Thanks to Noel and his guidance there, we went ahead, and in order to try and make that money go further, you will remember that we actually leased some equipment and staged it up at the landfill to do grinding of the materials that would be taken up, and as the renovation of the paths was handled. That particular equipment is very expensive. And Noel came to me the other day. He said, hey, look, we've still got a little time left on that equipment rental. And the path guys on the golf course have been really doing a great job now. And they could save us some mobilization costs if in fact we were to be able to go forward with some bike path paving. So we came forward with the estimates that you have in front of you. The name of the company is Landscapes Unlimited, and this would involve a change order. Obviously, we would pay for this, and it wouldn't be related to the FEMA effort at all. But since we've already spent about $60,000 on the grinding equipment, which would still be needed for this opportunity, and since golf paths, bike paths remain a high priority of our capital improvement program, we first put forward to you the possibility of Section A, which would be 5,500 linear feet, and that would be along Beachview Drive. Then, as a result of continued discussion, knowing that the Holiday Inn had had really advocated for, since their total renovation and reconstruction, for the bike path behind the Holiday Inn to be repaved as well. And that path is not theirs. It is part of our overall path circulation on the island. I talked with them, and they came forward and agreed that they would pay 50% of the cost if we were to move that one forward. So I sent you an email about that opportunity. I think it's a great opportunity, even though we certainly have financial issues that we're concerned about from an operational standpoint. These are capital expenditures, and we it's a way for us to move forward some of our bike path needs. We could get 7,600 linear feet or 1.437 miles of bike paths paved, and it would basically be from the Captain Wiley bike path intersection up to Toulouse Fish. So that would be a long stretch there. And we have presently $50,000 in capital that we have earmarked for bike paths. But with that, and with the expected contribution or confirmed contribution from the Holiday Inn Group, we would look at $250,950 from capital reserves to accomplish this effort. And Noel, anything I've left out about this overall discussion and where it's come from?
The only thing I would add is that the current asphalt bike path would be milled by a milling machine, and the new bike path would wind up being 2 feet wider, so it would be an 8-foot wide bike path, 4 inches thick of concrete. So the material would change and the width of the bike path would change, which is one of the chief responses or questions or complaints have you of the bike paths, that sometimes they're a little narrow, but we would remedy that with this renovation.
So the measurements that Noel just mentioned are the standard. That is the standard for bike paths that you find all over Jackal Island. And that's important to remember, and also to know that this doesn't solve our bike path issues. We're going to still be coming back to you as things improve for us to do more bike paths, because obviously we know that our bike paths are a major attraction on Jackal Island. We have people that bring bikes from all over to ride here. And this map that you have in front of you highlights all of the different areas where we have noted the bike paths renovations that are needed. I would say too that we did contribute at the end of FY20 which just ended in June, we did have left $321,974 in that was contributed to cash reserves, so capital reserves there. So, Mr. Chairman, I feel like this is a good opportunity because of the fact that we have the grinding equipment in place. We also have a company that has proven themselves to do a good job, an effective job, efficient job, and we can save on mobilization costs by just moving them straight over from the golf course over to bike paths. The anticipated schedule would be to start very quickly after they finish up at the golf courses, and then to be finished with all of this before Thanksgiving.
First of all, Noah, the existing bike paths all asphalt, the
Yes,
ones
sir.
that have been renovated, and they're going to be milled.
Yes, sir.
And then the new bike paths are going to be concrete
Yes, sir.
with the shell in them. Do you know?
No, just plain concrete.
Just plain concrete.
Yes,
still.
sir.
But still, that's more in keeping with the theming of the rest of the concrete walkways and bike paths on the island. So.
Yes, sir. That is always a consideration, but the cost savings and the length that you get is enormously different between the tabby and the non-tabby concrete.
Right.
And Mr. Gross, the most recent bike paths that we have done have been adjacent to the Seafarer, and that was a project that they were required to do as part of their renovation. And the specs there, it is concrete. It's cement. It's not the tabby concrete, as well as the Captain Wiley side of the Holiday Inn. That was required by Holiday Inn. Of Holiday Inn, and it's the same. Obviously, if we get into an area where the aesthetics are so important, like if we're in the historic district and we are going to tie in, we definitely try and tie that in. But some of these areas are a cement path will be a huge improvement over crumbling asphalt.
Just curious, Noel, do you get to retain the millings?
Yes.
That's great.
We're going to process the millings. They'll mill 2 inches of asphalt, which is the depth of the current asphalt, and 2 inches of soil to get the 4-inch depth for formwork. And then we'll screen it, grind it, and screen it, and we'll wind up getting topsoil, clean topsoil, and then millings. So we'll be able to reuse that on the island. And if they need a little bit of that material to help their site balance, we'll donate some of that material back to them.
Good deal. Mr. Chairman, do you need a motion?
Yes, I need a motion to recommend approval of the capital request for bike path rehabilitation as recommended by staff.
And Mr. Chairman, that motion should also be for a amendment to the existing contract. A change order.
I would make that motion as Jones just stated.
I'll get my lawyer to help me. Do I need to amend it and then come back and have another vote?
You just made the motion.
Yep.
Mr. Gross, I believe you just made a motion to approve the capital expenditure for the bike path rehabilitation and to approve the change order in the current contract. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So that's one motion, Chairman.
Okay, and I need a second.
Second. Dale, second.
Any discussion?
Chairman, before we could take a vote, could we please identify who is on the line? Because I believe someone dropped off.
Do a roll call.
Yeah, I'll go ahead. I was going to do a roll call next, but let's go ahead and do a roll call now. Here.
Mr. Bob Kruger,
Here.
Mr. Bill Gross,
Here.
Commissioner Mark Williams,
Here.
Ms. Joy Birch Meeks,
Here.
Dr. Buster Evans,
Here.
Mr. Glenn Willard,
Here.
Mr. Dale Atkins.
Here.
This vote passes unanimously.
That wasn't what you asked.
We were doing a roll call.
Yeah, should have been a roll call vote if in fact they were
Well,
voting.
we'll go back and do that right now because
I apologize.
that's all right. We were just making sure we had a quorum still. So let's do a roll call vote on this.
Mr. Joseph B. Wilkinson, Jr.,
Aye.
Mr. Bob Kruger,
Aye.
Mr. Bill Gross,
Aye.
Commissioner Mark Williams,
Aye.
Ms. Joy Birch Meeks,
Aye.
Dr. Buster Evans,
Aye.
Mr. Glenn Willard,
Aye.
Mr. Dale Atkins. Chairman, this vote is now unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll move forward to the Clam Creek Fishing Center lease renewal. Maria?
Good morning. This morning for your consideration, we have a unique opportunity. Most of the Jackal leases allow for automatic renewal. This particular lease for the Clam Creek Fishing Center allowed us to renegotiate the terms of the lease at the renewal point. We reviewed the lease and determined there were some things we did like the opportunity to renegotiate. The lease memorandum that you have has the highlights of what those amendments we're requesting are. The previous lease, the lease that we're trying to get renewed with the new terms, had a 3% annual increase, which was somewhat excessive because it's every year it was increasing at 3%. It wasn't tied to any consumer price index like some of our other leases. So we've asked that it be tied to a consumer price index increase annually instead of the 3%. And we've also asked that we add percentage rent for any additional income that may be generated through the facility, which would be greater of the base rent or the percentage rent. Kind of makes up for the fact that we're taking away the higher increase. The other thing that we negotiated with them, there was some continuing confusion on who was responsible for what repairs and maintenance. And we put some language in there that tightened that up so that there's no confusion or ambiguity. Staff recommends that this lease change be approved with the new terms.
So I would need a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I've got a question.
Yes, sir.
We note on here that the tenant must carry insurance. Do we have a further definition of what types of insurance and in what amounts the tenant must carry?
Yes, let me refer to the lease.
I guess my point is that included in the renewal other than just a general
Yeah.
statement that the,
Yes, all terms in the lease pretty much stayed the same with the exception of the things that are in this memorandum that were renegotiated. Everything else pretty much stayed the same. It's a renewal, so everything that was in the previous lease is still in this lease.
insurance.
Including insurance.
Insurance
Yeah.
definitions and amounts are specified in the lease, is what you're telling me.
Yes, they are. There's a whole section on it. Premises and operations, 1 million per occurrence, personal injury, 1 million per occurrence, contractual, 1 million per occurrence, and general aggregate of 2 million per occurrence. Commercial umbrella liability, minimum combined, 3 million per occurrence and 3 million aggregate. Melissa could probably speak to this, but
Yeah,
a lot of
that's
the
okay.
insurance requirements are standard.
I just wanted to make sure that he didn't show up and say, hey, I've got an automobile insurance policy, so I've got insurance.
No, they cannot. It's commercial declaration of insurance.
Fine, thank you. I'll make that motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, then I need a second.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? We'll do a roll call. Call
Yes,
for the
sir.
vote, please.
Thank you. Mr. Joseph B. Wilkinson, Jr.,
Aye.
Mr. Bob Kruger,
Aye.
Mr. Bill Gross,
Aye.
Commissioner Mark Williams,
Aye.
Ms. Joy Birch Meeks,
Aye.
Dr. Buster Evans,
Aye.
Mr. Glenn Willard,
Aye.
Mr. Dale Atkins. Sir, this vote is unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is we're going to the master plan amendment update, the Georgia Power Substation. Melissa?
Thank you, Chairman. As you are aware, we are currently in the process of amending our master plan to accommodate an expanded and relocated Georgia Power Substation. This was presented to you at the September 15th regularly scheduled board meeting. And now I am just going to give you an update of where we are. After that presentation to you, we placed the ads in the legal organs of Glenn and Fulton counties on September 18th as required by state law. And we also have the ability for the public to submit comments on our website. And that's at jackalisland.com, Jackal Island Authority /master plan. This public comment will be available through November 15th. And also as required by law in order to amend the master plan, this was surveyed and staked at the appropriate time. Notices of the proposed plan have been sent to the Speaker of the House and other required state entities. That was done on September 21st, which is within the due dates of the deadlines of the statutes. And finally, we had a public hearing on October 6th. It was streamed online and it was in person. I think we had three maybe members of the public that were there. We didn't receive any comments except I think one gentleman said, "Let's do it." And so the next steps are we are waiting to see if the Jackal Island State Park Oversight Committee will send you, Mr. Chairman, an objection. If not, the board can consider this at the December board meeting for approval.
Thank you, Counselor. Okay, we're going to move forward to the executive director, unless you have something.
No, sir.
That's all right. The executive director's report, Jones.
Mr. Chairman, in your blue folders, there is an update that we are providing as far as the ransomware attack that we suffered on, became aware of on September the 11th. And we are giving you a total update there. I will tell you that this has been an amazing process with many twists and turns that none of us ever imagined. Even though we were operating above and beyond the state requirements, our computer systems were. We have now invested an additional $25,000 in security measures for our systems. Coastal Computing has spent over 340 hours in handling this attack for us. We've had 9 JIA employees involved in it, spending time, an inordinate amount of time in many cases, going through the individual files of our 19 servers to look for possible compromises of personal information. That is a very time-consuming routine. It is also one that is absolutely required in situations like this. And so while we've had outside help assisting with a lot of this effort, we've had to have in-house persons working on it as well, because in-house we know the data, we know the protocols as far as what's asked or what's kept in our files. We also continue to be to have solace in the fact that our charge card information, our utility billing information, our gate information has been sufficiently encrypted, so we have not discovered any problems or issues there. I will say that as you probably experienced, I think all of us this day and age are beginning to get notices from companies that we have business with, and with other major companies. Sometimes these breaches occur and then it's several weeks before you're notified. Well, we now understand why, because it is a very time-consuming effort to go through and try and sweep and conduct the forensics in conjunction with the GBI, the state IT folks, as well as even the GBI involved the Secret Service in this. So, I just bring forward to you that we are getting very close to hopefully the end, hopefully the time whenever we will now be able to go forward and notify anyone that has the potential to have had personal information compromised. And Marjorie has been our point person on this, as well as Melissa. And Marjorie, would you like to add anything to what I've mentioned? And Melissa, maybe you might want to add what our next steps may be.
I think you covered most of the points, Jones, as far as, what has happened and that kind of thing. Michelle has also been very involved in that process and helping us research files. We, continue to monitor everything going forward, and hopefully this is the end of it coming soon. We do have a lot of notices going out, though, so it's going to take a little while to get those out.
Melissa, anything you'd like to add?
I would just like to assure the board that we are making progress on this day by day. We are working on this day by day. It is an amazing, incredible amount of coordination between multiple departments, multiple state agencies, multiple private vendors that has to take place, and the amount of detail and the moving parts that each depend on other moving parts it is not simple. It is not uncomplicated. It is very complicated. So I thank the board and the public for having patience with us while we are doing our speedy but also due diligence in notifying individuals.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I would also like to note that the Georgia Technology Agency or Authority, Georgia Technology Authority, and the GBI, they continue to look at the dark web to see what information may or may not be out there, and they coordinate that with us and through Coastal Computing as well. So we're delighted that we had as many videos of turtles as we happen to have, because they seem to have put a lot of turtle video out in the dark web. So that I suppose is the one lighter moment that we can share. But beyond that, it's a very serious undertaking.
I've been very impressed with the company. And as a matter of fact, I personally retained them for my business. So I've been very impressed.
Mr. Chairman, just a couple of quick other, three other items. Jackal Island Seafood, they are closed right now for renovations. They will be unveiling a new restaurant concept And so we have met with them, and we anticipate that new concept, and we're excited about that. So certainly they'll be releasing more information on that soon, but hopefully sometime right after the first of the year would be when they're looking for that unveiling. Also, the Golden Ray, which is the ship in the channel. Folks usually are asking about that. It has been delayed again. It seems there's always another issue because remember, it is the largest disaster of that nature in the history of the nation, and so they're learning as they go, I suppose. And I'm certain that there are so many technicalities that are way beyond anything that's imaginable or that I can imagine. And even though that we're now out of the Atlantic hurricane season, or the height of Atlantic hurricane season. One other thing, Mr. Chairman, if board members will note, we will be scheduling, we've already gotten the approval from the owners. You will have a tour of the Courtyard Residence Inn following your board meeting next month. And so we're excited to be able to offer that to you. Mr. Chairman, that's all I have unless there are questions.
Any questions? Chairman's comments, I'll be brief for a change. And just once again, I marvel at this remarkable staff and just how you all have overcome so much and to protect and keep this island and employees going. It's very, very special. Open the floor for any public comments. They also may be submitted online. Okay, then I'm going to, do we need a break?
Mr. Chairman, there's one.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, yes, please.
I'm Al Tate, I'm a resident and I live on Beachview Drive. I'd like to make comments about the bike path renovations, and my first comment is to say thank you very much for adding this in and the initiative you took to put this into the money that would allow us to do renovations on this bike path along Beachview. It's very heavily traveled. In addition to that, I'd like to say that would it be possible to put that display up of showing the island and where the bike path things are, because my comment would be more understood if I can get that. There it is. Now, if you look, the section A listed is the one from the hotels up there through to Taloo Fish, and it's $258,000 in section A there. If you look right next to that at section B, it's $284,000, which is a little bit higher. But the thing I'm concerned about, and I'm particularly concerned about it because of the liability that is exposed for the island authority in that section B. That goes in front of the cottages, and it's that section that's on a little bit of a slope, and the bike path in that area is in the worst shape of any along Beachview Drive. I reported on this and I've commented on it a couple of times before, but there's a risk associated with that. I noticed that you folks were concerned about liability risks in regard to the fishing renewal. And so I just wanted to call your attention to the risk that's associated with that deterioration of that bike path area. And I wonder if it would be possible to swap A and B and put the priority on B. Yes, A needs it, C needs it, and we're grateful for anything you can do there. But I think in terms of the risk associated with our visitors to the island, that putting a priority on section B ahead of A would be money better spent to protect ourselves from the liability of people having an accident on that bike path. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone need a break? If not, I will officially open the October 20th, 2020 board meeting of the Jackal Island Authority, and we'll call the roll again. Be by the book.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Joseph B. Wilkinson, Jr.,
Here.
Mr. Bob Kruger,
Here.
Mr. Bill Gross,
Here.
Commissioner Mark Williams,
Here.
Miss Joy Birch Meeks,
Here.
Dr. Buster Evans,
Here.
Mr. Glenn Willard,
Here.
Mr. Dale Adkins.
Here.
You have a full attendance.
Okay, thank you. We now, let's see, the next item we have is approval of the minutes of the September 15th, 2020 board meeting. I need a motion to accept the minutes of September 15, 2020, the board meeting as presented. I need a motion.
So moved.
Been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and second. Any discussion? Call for the vote.
Thank you. Mr. Joseph B. Wilkinson, Jr.,
Aye.
Mr. Bob Kruger,
Aye.
Mr. Bill Gross,
Aye.
Commissioner Mark Williams,
Aye.
Miss Joy Birch Meeks,
Aye.
Dr. Buster Evans,
Aye.
Mr. Glenn Willard,
Aye.
Mr. Dale Atkins.
Aye.
The vote is unanimous, sir.
Thank you. Board members have received a Finance Committee recommendation to approve the emergency purchase of Incubator for Water, Wastewater Department. Is there any further discussion before a vote? Chair hears none. All those in favor will signify. Well, let's do a roll call again.
Yes, sir. Mr. Joseph B. Wilkinson,
Aye.
Jr., Mr. Bob Kruger,
Aye.
Mr. Bill Gross,
Aye.
Commissioner Mark Williams,
Aye.
Miss Joy Birch Meeks,
Aye.
Dr. Buster Evans,
Aye.
Mr. Glenn Willard,
Aye.
Mr. Dale Atkins.
Aye.
The vote is unanimous, sir.
Thank you. Okay. The policy update, recruiting and selection policy. Board members have received a Human Resources Committee recommendation to approve the policy update, recruiting and selection policy. Is there any further discussion before a vote? Roll call, please.
Thank you. Mr. Joseph B. Wilkinson, Jr.,
Aye.
Mr. Bob Kruger,
Aye.
Mr. Bill Gross,
Aye.
Commissioner Mark Williams,
Aye.
Miss Joy Birch Meeks,
Aye.
Dr. Buster Evans,
Aye.
Mr. Glenn Willard,
Aye.
Mr. Dale Atkins.
Aye.
The vote is unanimous, sir.
Thank you. Board members have received a committee of the whole recommendation to approve the capital request for bike path rehabilitation. Is there any further discussion before a vote? Roll call, please.
Thank you. Mr. Joseph B. Wilkinson, Jr.,
Aye.
Mr. Bob Kruger,
Aye.
Mr. Bill Gross,
Aye.
Commissioner Mark Williams,
Aye.
Miss Joy Birch Meeks,
Aye.
Dr. Buster Evans,
Aye.
Mr. Glenn Willard,
Aye.
Mr. Dale Atkins.
Aye.
The vote is unanimous, sir.
Thank you. Board members have received a committee of the whole recommendation to approve the Clam Creek Fishing Center lease renewal. Is there any further discussion before a vote? Roll call, please.
Thank you. Mr. Joseph B. Wilkinson, Jr.,
Aye.
Mr. Bob Kruger,
Aye.
Mr. Bill Gross,
Aye.
Commissioner Mark Williams,
Aye.
Miss Joy Birch Meeks,
Aye.
Dr. Buster Evans,
Aye.
Mr. Glenn Willard,
Aye.
Mr. Dale Atkins.
Aye.
The vote is unanimous, sir.
Thank you. Any public comments? Public comments can also be made online. Okay, I will welcome a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, move, and I need a second on that, Don.
Amen.
Second.
Yeah, we'll do it. And I have Don't see or hear of any objections, so we are adjourned. And the time is 11:44 a.m.
Thank you, sir.
Right, thank you. Thank all of you.
Amen. Amen.
Have a good day.
Too.
Thank you,
2
everyone.
hours and 15 minutes.
Everybody hung in on the phone today.
They did.
Everybody hung in on the phone.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
I think they were concerned they might be called for roll call.
Good to see you, Dale.